This is News Central TV, and we are live with our inauguration coverage of 2023. After the elections, in the aftermath, now there will be some new governors, some returning, but definitely all eyes are on Abuja with swearing in of a new president. Good morning and welcome. We're live with you in Lagos, Nigeria. I'm Tolulokwe Adileru Balogun.
Absolutely, and of course, in some parts of the country, it is a continuation of an existing government. A government rather, and of course in some places it is a brand new government that is taking over office. But of course the federal level, Bola, Ahmed, Tinubu and Kashim Shettima are being sworn in or have been sworn in to take over, of course, the Nigerian ship for the next 4 years. So of course the conversations surrounding their inauguration and what this portends for Nigeria in the next 4 years is, I mean, some of the biggest conversations in Nigeria today. And I'm sure not just in Nigeria, but across the continent and across the world, with representatives of governments from countries here on the continent of Africa, and of course in different parts of the world, also present here for the inauguration. We're here to have these discussions with you, our viewers across the continent. I am Osalgi Ogbonwan. Thank you very much for joining us. Congratulations to everyone who's getting inaugurated today. Tolu, do you agree with that?
Congratulations. As the elections ran, we know that the Tinubu administration that is now incoming ran on renewed hope. So there will be conversations on what that hope will portend for the largest democracy, the largest economy, and the most populous Black nation on earth. What is the hope that Nigerians have for this administration? And as Osa said, we have a number of African presidents who have arrived in the past 24 hours to take part in a very auspicious occasion as it is today. We also have correspondents who will be joining us. Bernard Akede is here in Lagos at the Tafawa Balewa Square, and he's, of course, going to be there with Babajide Sanwo-Olu being sworn in for a second term, as well as his deputy. And we also have Niyi Omani, who is in Abeokuta at the MKO Abiola Stadium, who's going to be there as Dapo Abiodun is sworn in for his second term as well. But our Abuja correspondent, Abuja Bureau Chief Amadi Uyi, is the one who's covering things live at Eagle Square, Abuja, for us as well. So first, let's touch base with Niyi. Let's see what is happening. So Niyi, tell us, what are things looking like in Abeokuta?
So we're live here at the MKO Abiola International Stadium in Ogun State, live, as I said, and we're about to witness the second term inauguration of Prince Dapo Abiodun, who is going to be the 5th executive governor of Ogun State. And as you can see just far right there, respondent people, residents, everyone gathered. Security personnel is quite heavy. Even camera operators from different media houses are also here. The local governments are represented at various seats: Abeokuta South, Abeokuta North, Obafemi Owode, Ijebu, and even to my left-hand side here, round the stadium, seats have been made available for different people across the various local governments we have in Ogun State. And the beautiful thing about it is that I spoke with some people earlier, and they were able to communicate that this is the person they want for the job one more time, because they mentioned that his first tenure was good. And from his first tenure, he won by 19,000 votes, and the second tenure he won with about 13,000 votes, although the reference station in court. But the tribunals ruled in favor of Prince Dapo Abiodun, who is also an APC member, an APC flag bearer of the state. In few hours, hopefully, we get to see the inauguration start, and then we can bring you more information from MKO Abiola International Stadium in Ogun State, live. Niyi Omani, reporting from Ogun State.
You've spoken with anyone, of course, to understand what the mood is like, but of course we would get to Niyi to hear from him and see exactly what goes on over there and how it plays out. But one thing that we would be interrogating today, like our guest a lot earlier on Breakfast Central said, that there is 6 million people who voted the Labour Party and 6 million people who voted the PDP, and that makes a total of 12 million people who may not be very excited about today's inauguration at the federal level. And it's one of the things that we're going to be, taking a look at. How does the president-elect take steps towards uniting Nigerians? The precedents that was set by the Buhari administration that seemed to be a very, people would say divisive government. How can that be fixed? So we'll be taking a closer look at that today.
And we know that, of course, swearing-ins have happened now in Kano and Kwara states. There are a number of swearing-ins that are meant to happen across the country. Majority of eyes will, of course, be focused on Abuja, Lagos as well, but also some interesting states with how things played out when the gubernatorial elections held in March of 2023 as well. But let's bring in our guest, our first guest with us, and we will be expecting more. But right now in the studio with us, we have Segun Shopitan, who's a public affairs analyst, and he's going to be with us as we go through some of the issues as the outgoing Buhari administration is working its way through finally handing over, and of course the taking over of a new administration. So it's expected to be quite an interesting program today. So there are a number of things and protocol that will follow how things happen. They're going to be the invited dignitaries sitting at Eagle Square, the president-elect and the vice president-elect arriving, then the outgoing president and outgoing vice president arriving, the outgoing VP, that is, of course, Yemi Osinbajo, taking his last salute, then President Buhari as well taking his last salute, then expecting to see the outgoing ADCs, the aide-de-camps of the president and vice president, handing over old military colors to the outgoing president, some prayers. Then we'll see the Chief Justice of Nigeria, who's going to be invited to swear in the new vice president, and then also swear in the new president and the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We'll eventually also see President Buhari hand over the new colors to the new president, as well as the instruments of office. And then the former president will leave for the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport. And of course, all of this is, it's listed. There's program of order for all of these things to happen. And then we'll see the new president take his salute, inspect the guards of honor, and also address the nation for the first time as president and commander, and then also drive and make his way into the villa then as president. So it's a list of things that we'll be following throughout the day. We will stay with you. We will give you all the latest that comes in, but it's the conversations we get to now. All right, so Segun, we are here at the cusp of a new administration, the end of the old and in with the new, out with the old as it may be, but it's still the same party, the All Progressives Congress. And I think we can start looking at that. In the past few days, we've been hearing that President Muhammadu Buhari says he expects to see President-elect Tinubu follow along the path of what he has laid down as his administration. But I don't know if you noticed some of the jingles that came out during the campaign period. It seemed that the Tinubu administration was taking the incoming Tinubu administration was taking a slightly different tone. We're going to give you renewed hope. Had Nigerians lost hope, we're going to bring you a new path to prosperity. Had Nigerians lost that path? So what do you think? Do we expect to see the Tinubu administration following the path of President Buhari's administration?
Good morning again, and good morning, Nigerians. I expect, I think, a significant departure. Just like you say, going by the refrain during the elections, you realize that Bola Ahmed Tinubu as a man had a burden on his shoulders. He knew that he was partially responsible for the Buhari administration, and he knew that as a leader in the APC, he owed that administration some measure of support in his language and his rhetoric. But he also recognized the fact that, the administration had not exactly covered itself in glory. And it was important to kind of distance himself from that to some degree. And I think that's so it was a bit of a conflict of messaging, if you like, during the campaigns. And I think that now that his administration is coming to life, you will see that conflict taken away, and you will see him probably take a significant departure in certain policy measures and directions. For example, the Buhari, the man, we know is largely a socialist. He's largely a welfareist kind of person, from his first coming as a military administrator, and then even in his second, incarnation, if you like, as the leader of Nigeria. So you have things like trader money, market money, the conditional cash transfers. There were so many welfare
school feeding program
programs, and all of those things that in our opinion as economic analysts, were tokenistic and did not speak to the problems in a fundamental way that was required. So that was the man Buhari. Tinubu is a capitalist,
Free market almost.
almost, so you would see that change in tone, in this administration. So for example, you would find a significant reliance on private sector participation in execution of government programs. You would see a significant ramping up of the revenue generating capacity of the federal government, including things like increase in tax rates and trying very deliberately to widen the tax net. Those are things that President Buhari shied away from. And we suffered the consequences in some regard. As we now know, percentage of revenues, debt service obligations to revenue was, at some point, actually crossed beyond 100%. That's how terrible, the revenue problem was under Buhari. So yes, we're definitely going to see some departure, and I think it might be significant. I hope it will be significant.
Yeah. When you say President Buhari shied away from it, is it because, he had a different method, or, the people that he placed in those positions of power? Because, I don't know that we can solely rely on the brilliance of, President Muhammadu Buhari or who is president. It has to be the people he has appointed. Yeah. It has to be the people he has put in his economic management team. So I don't know if, President Buhari shied away because he knew better, or because he had a different method, or because the people he put there, just had different methods of doing things. So you probably can speak on that. And then also the part, there is a fear, right? In every electoral cycle, there's always a slogan. It's always a Milocon, there's renewed hope, there's, change, and all of that. But there's also people who can say that these slogans mean absolutely nothing, that this is a power grab. And this is really just a group of people who have decided that they will do what it takes to seize power. Doesn't matter what slogan that they put forward. So tell me about that fear and what it means, for Nigeria's next 4 years. The power grab, fear, and then also the part where there would be a power tussle in Aso Rock. You understand the people that are leaving Aso Rock currently. You also understand those who are moving into Aso Rock right now. Yeah. There will likely be people who are struggling to stay relevant and hold on to power. So tell us about that part also.
Well, so to the first part of your question, we cannot divorce the tone and the direction of an administration from the man at the center, right at the head of it. We just can't. No matter how many advisors you have around you, no matter their pedigree and what have you, you've just got your predilections, and you will be guided by them. So that's why I say, the man Buhari shied away. I'm sure that he had. Look, I know some of the people that were around him from an economic advisory point of view. Yeah. And I know these minds are brilliant. For example, Dr. Doyin.
Before you go further into that, we can look at the visuals coming to us right now from Abuja. We're seeing the president-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu arriving at the Eagle Square there. We also, I believe that is Senator Oluremi Tinubu, that is his wife, our incoming First Lady by all expectations as well. He's very, you can see him among the crowd because of the hats and the signet and the symbol that is on the hat. That's the incoming president wears. So he has arrived now at Eagle Square. So we expect more people to arrive. But as I said, with that program of order, this likely means that we should be expecting the President Muhammadu Buhari, to be arriving anytime soon, because the president-elect and the vice president-elect are meant to arrive before the outgoing president and vice president. So we should be expecting to see President Buhari in a matter of minutes now. Shegun, I apologize for the interruption, just to give some context to what's on the screen. So let's go back. You were mentioning some interesting people, because this is a conversation all the way from the Obasanjo administration that we continuously have about being surrounded by brilliant minds and these sound economic and legal teams. And then we still see what happens with these administrations in the long run. Yeah,
I mean, so it still speaks to the attitude and the disposition of the man at the center. So, for example, Doyin Salami, who was my lecturer, I mean, he's a brilliant human being. Yes. When it comes to economic policy,
internationally recognized.
It's incredible how he thinks. You've got a Bismarck Rawani. He's also a part of Buhari's team. And yet, the man simply does what he wants to do. And I think that you can't take that away. So that's to that first part. So we hope that the new man who is coming in charge from today will think differently, and hopefully his different thinking will benefit Nigerians. Which then takes us, to the second part of your question, which is about the power grab and the power play that surrounds the presidency, the person, and then the office. Look, we cannot lie to ourselves, and we cannot deny the reality that for most of our politicians in this part of the world, and especially in Nigeria, I think it's less about the public good, the common good, and more about the personal interests and maybe the interests of a smaller group of people around, our political leaders. And look, the evidence to support this, I think, abounds right around us, all around us. The life that we live, the fact that Nigeria, in truth, has not moved forward significantly in those 24 years. And you can argue in the 63 years, and you can take any indicator you'd like to use to measure that, and you find that we simply haven't moved, and I think that one of the reasons for that is, this point you make, it's really about the power grab. It's about ambitions. Emilokon, it's my turn. To do what? Is it to lead your people out of problems, or just to know that I was a president? I was privileged to sit in personal audience with the president-elect who is becoming president today as far back as 2003. And we had a conversation around his presidential ambition. 2003, that's 20 years ago. So this is not something that just happened. He wanted this. And, so the question would be why? Did he want this for the common good or just as personal ambition? Look, Buhari wanted to be president so badly, he contested 4 times. And then he
all the way to the Supreme Court.
All the way to the Supreme Court several times, and then he got it. And what have we? 8 years. As the jury is out. As to
so we also now see the Vice President-elect Kashim Shettima has also joined the President-elect there. His wife also with him. So a number of dignitaries, and as we do in Nigeria, a lot of greetings and all of that happening. So we have President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu, his wife Remi Tinubu, Kashim Shettima, Vice President-elect, and his wife also. If you want to look at it again, you'll see the President-elect in a green cap with a white symbol, and the Vice President is wearing, I believe it's a dark gray Babariga, and of course a hat as well. So that will allow you to pick them out of the crowd. But we are expecting the president and the vice president, outgoing Presidents Muhammadu Buhari and Professor Yemi Osinbajo, to be entering Eagle Square at any time. And then the program will officially, of course, kick off. But also joining us right now online, we have Chukwuma Okenwa. He's the executive director of Lead Network Africa. He's also one of those who will be joining us in these conversations as we cover all the way through inauguration and swearing in and the very first speech of Nigeria's new president. I believe I do have Chukwuma Okenwa, executive director of Lead Network Africa. Chukwuma, welcome to the programming. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Fantastic to have you. So we're setting the pace with this conversation right now and looking basically at the outgoing administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. Segun has talked a bit about the conversations around political ambition and rather wanting to be president for the good of the people, and then also touch base on some of the expectations we have for the incoming administration. But let's go back to the Buhari administration. In the past few weeks, we've all noticed that the president himself and many of his spokespeople have been scoring this administration quite high, whether it comes to the issue of employment or security or corruption, overall, saying that they believe they've done quite well. Yeah. Do you think about 200 million Nigerians in the past 8 years of this administration would also be scoring this outgoing administration as highly as the administration is scoring itself? Chukwuma.
Well, I would say that the attempts by the current administration or the outgoing administration led by President Muhammadu Buhari to assert its own self would be like someone blowing his or her own trumpet. And it is said that when a man or a woman blows his or her own trumpet, then you are blowing off key, because when it really comes to like all of those indices that the president will want to like use to assess himself, whether you're talking about economy or security or the fight against corruption, then you have to like match records with realities that is down on the street. You know, something about the reality about the economics is that some of those technicalities of GDP per capita, purchasing power parity are just there for the academics. And I mean, you don't need to be like an academic for you to like appreciate economic indices when you actually match it with reality. What concerns the common man is, you know, how easy is it for you to buy food at the moment? Is it easier for you now than when President Muhammad Buhari took over? Do your children have more access to like better jobs? You know, what's actually like the value of the currency at the moment? Is it losing its value? Are things getting better? Can you sleep with your eyes closed? So I really think that when it comes to things about good governance, so you want to look at it or find things that academics can discuss, maybe when you want to talk about maybe like issues of security, for instance, right? You know, there are some terminologies you could come up with that those that are not security inclined may not understand. When you also talk about like issues of law, I mean, you don't need to be a lawyer for you to know that things are working well in your nation, because the essence of law is to ensure that power is evenly distributed. You know, that someone who is weak is equally protected by a system, you know, whether he knows anybody or not. That's what a lawful nation is. So I think, judging by the indices, yes, of course, we're going to give some credit to President Muhammad Buhari in terms of infrastructure. But I think looking at the ATAs, it just seemed like the vice president described it, that it just passed so sudden. He said that the ATAs just looked like it just came so sudden for him, and that's what is really, and it's a time to like really critically think and then ask ourselves, where are we really headed? And one aspect of economic indices I also want to mention, which is very important, even as like maybe we try to like talk about things President Muhammad Buhari have done, we should also look at the fact that the debt profile of the nation has so risen. I mean, if you are talking about wealth creation is entirely a different ball game than borrowing money. Like you want to become rich through borrowing, like what we saw on the street, like borrow me, make me rich. I mean, if a father of the family tells his children, we want to create wealth as a family, and all he does is like to think of one loan to collect from one place to another, and he's, you know, you can literally see him like spending it on many things that probably does not have like a direct economic value to resolving those debts that the father of the family is collecting.
Okay,
you know, you can actually begin to wonder, yes.
Let me quickly interrupt you. That was the vice president of Nigeria who just arrived, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, wearing the white and I believe it was a black cap. So he's arrived at the venue of Eagle Square, which also means we should be expecting President Muhammadu Buhari in the coming moments. This is a very tightly run schedule. Certain things must happen before other things can happen, but at least it lets you keep track of the movement of the program. So Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, who also contested at the APC primaries for this position that Tinubu will be, of course, being sworn in for, has now arrived at the venue of the event. Chukuma, quickly wrap up your thoughts on the issue around the administration scoring themselves, because you know you made reference to a proverb, but we also remember another African proverb which talks about the lizard falling down, and that if there's no one there to applaud for him, the lizard will nod his head and, you know, encourage himself. So is that also not sort of the situation this administration finds themselves in?
Well, I would say it's not really applicable in this case, because I mean, if you want to say I have done.
All right, Mr. Okewan, we may have lost sound from you there.
Can you hear me?
All right, yes, we can. Go ahead.
I mean, it's not something that maybe you just say, oh, I have my own indices of measuring myself. I mean, governance did not start and it will not end in Nigeria. There are indices in measuring. You talk about numbers. And of course, according to Lord Kelvin, he said when you are talking about something and you can't be able to talk about it in terms of numbers, then you lack a qualitative knowledge of what you are talking about. So when we want to judge Nigeria, like judge by the economy, and look at to what extent have we been able to grow economically, to what extent are we stable, to what extent have we lifted up millions of Nigerians out of poverty. When you look at that in terms of economy, then you find out that you know, assessing or saying that we've done well would actually be like telling Nigerians, well, you might say that you are suffering, but that's not true. And I mean, even if, like, for instance, in our own nation, everything towards is politics. So you could have a situation where if you assess a thing, maybe someone is looking at, are you from the opposing party? Could it be that maybe like this opinion is actually coming from maybe like the opposition party? But beyond, we also have like some indices from the World Bank, the IMF. These are platforms that like interrogate policies. They want to look at the numbers. They want to look at how well you're faring. You even talk about the Commonwealth sectorial, like things like the Youth Development Index, and of course the UNDP, the Human Development Index. When you look at all of these indices and judge for ourselves fairly, we come to find out that a situation where Nigerians, their assessment, their real perception that is on the ground tends to agree with that of the world bodies, and only differ from the actors themselves.
All right, Mr.
Who would you want to believe?
Yeah, kindly hold on. Of course, on your screen there, I think we just saw pictures of Senator Rochas Okorocha, former governor of Imo State, the Senate President Ahmed Lawan, and of course the outgoing Vice President, all dressed in white there. If you are familiar with those faces, then I think you can pick them up from the screens there as we await the arrival of the outgoing President Muhammadu Buhari at Nigeria's swearing-in ceremony, inauguration day 2023. Let's also introduce Kunle Lawal. He's the Executive Director, Electoral College of Nigeria. Mr. Lawal, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Good morning to you and congratulations. I think your mic is muted. If you can unmute your device.
Yeah, my mic is on. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for joining us. I guess I would say congratulations to you on Inauguration Day. But I want to get your views, and I'm sure there's millions of Nigerians also thinking about this. The government that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is inheriting is a government with double-digit inflation, the government that needs about 10 to 11 trillion naira, budget deficit, and of course may need to borrow. It's a government that, of course, is inheriting security challenges in different parts of the country, not just in the north. Now we're talking in the southeast. We're even talking about Yoruba nation agitators and whatnot. It's a government that has not been able to fight corruption in any way, shape, or form. It basically remains in the same corruption index that it was in 2014, or probably even worse. In what ways can we expect any changes, from the Tinubu administration? And would it be fair to them 2 years from now if they say, well, the situation was just too bad, we couldn't do anything?
Thank you all for having me here first. And of course, we're happy about the 7th inauguration, which of course Nigeria is engaging in during this democratic dispensation. As regards to what the government will have to do, first and foremost, I think one of the key things to guarantee will be security. And this is most paramount because it's on this foundation, everything else can be built. You can't build anything else without security. So I think his government is first tasked with understanding the security concerns. I think what's critical to even moving forward with that is first creating a unified Nigeria. Nigeria has been at its most divisive, I think, since 1966 over the last 3 or 4 years. And it showed in our elections. I think that is critical for them to put together what needs to necessarily be done for the government to move forward. Security will be key on its mind, and then economics, and the economics of the nation. Now, I would say post-COVID, a drop in oil revenue, Nigeria has to look within, and that's critically, that's important for us. I think you'll be faced with matters which is over high government spending. We spend a lot of money on governance. I think that will be cut short a bit. I also think the subsidy issue will be one of his first moves. I'm not sure yet. I can't say for his government, but I think if you're trying to move forward with Nigeria that you've met, I think these are things that are key to you moving forward as a government. I know there's been a general mantra in Abuja here, which is we're going to hit the road running. And we hope he's going to have to do that. I look forward to his speech this evening or first thing tomorrow morning. And we would like to see where the present dispensation will do, or the new incoming dispensation will be headed.
And Kule, it's interesting you bring up the subsidy matter. So let's go to that because there are a number of places I wanted us to touch. But before that, excuse me, a quick look at some of the promises that came from the Buhari administration. And interestingly enough, it got to a point where the president was even saying that he wasn't the one who made the promises, that it was the APC that made the promises. But let's look at some of the things that were going around. And this was limited to, but there are a number of things. Engaging 1 million N-Power graduates and scale up to 10 million Nigerians in partnership with private sector. Expand the school feeding program from 9.3 million to 15 million. Complete the Ibadan-Kano phase of the Lagos-Kano rail link. Complete the Port Harcourt-Maiduguri line. Complete the Atakpe-Warri line to Abuja. He also, of course, complete the second Niger Bridge and the East-West Road connecting Warri, Delta State to Oran, Akwa Ibom State through a number of other places. Then he also talked about giving more money to small traders and artisans, institutionalizing soft loans, giving access to young people as aides of cabinet members, and then some kind of mentoring program as well. Also talked about creating more room for inclusion in the government by achieving 35% in female appointments. But I think at the top of the list was the issues around subsidy, corruption, security, and the economy. So let's come to the subsidy matter. We were told at the beginning of this budgeting cycle that there is no budgetary allocation for the subsidy beyond June. We are entering June in the next few days. The administration is going to hit this road and hit this wall that is subsidy. But now we've been told that it hasn't been, that is suspended, the removal, but there's still no budgetary allocation for it. So what is the president of the President Tinubu administration going to meet when it comes to subsidy? There's no allocation, but you're saying that the removal has been suspended. Where are we?
Well, I think that they made that pronouncement on the back of the reality that confronted them, realizing that, you just can't take the subsidy out. You can't. Everybody that understands basic mathematics knows that the subsidy has to go, but you can't take it out now because of the social dislocation it's going to create. So this administration has said we're suspending it, but there's no budgetary provision. So one of the first things that Tinubu, the President Tinubu, would have to confront is a decision. Whether to
a supplementary budget?
Yes, exactly. Whether to stick with that policy pronouncement of the Buhari administration and therefore immediately send a supplementary budget to the National Assembly, I think it's still be the 9th Assembly. He can't wait until the 10th Assembly, so he would need to make that provision so that subsidies can remain for the remainder of the year. And then they can decide how they want to tackle that very difficult question. But I don't see him being able to take, just leave things as they are, because like you say, there's no provision in the budget for it beyond June 30, 2023. So effective 1st of July, subsidies are out. And if you do that, pump price at the filling station is going to go up to 750. The oil marketers have told us that.
Yeah.
So we're talking of a 400% increase in the cost of petrol. It's going to be bedlam and chaos, and they know this. And I keep saying this, that for a presidency, a government and an administration that has legitimacy problems, the last thing you want to do is to give people a reason to hit the streets. They can't afford it, so they will definitely not take the subsidy out.
Luckily, there's an $800 million loan that has been taken to ease the pain for Nigerians.
That's a funny one.
And it's interesting. But Kunle, let me follow up on that because that naturally takes us to the petroleum industry, the oil and gas industry. President Buhari signed the Petroleum Industry Act, PIA, into law. He served as petroleum minister overseeing the industry. But what have we seen in the past few years? We've also seen a situation where last month, I believe it was Angola that once again overtook Nigeria as the continent's largest crude oil producer because, again, our production, crude barrels per day, went down to around 900,000 or a little under 1 million. So he served as Minister of Petroleum. We have the subsidy going out or in place. At this point, we need some clarity from Tinubu once he becomes president. But at the end of the day, we had what was the cash cow in many instances for Nigeria suffering under this administration. That's where a lot of our foreign reserves came from. What do you expect when we have a Tinubu administration coming in? And how would you rate the president's handling of the corruption in the sector, as well as even just turning around the refineries? He was here in Lagos to commission the Dangote refinery. That's a big part of the conversation as well. Yet we were unable to fully turn around the country's own refineries. Kunle? Kunle, are you with us? All right, it seems we're having some technical issues, but I believe, Chukuma, you're also still with us, correct?
Yeah, sure, I am here.
Fantastic. So I know you heard my question to Kunle. I was also going to get your thoughts on that. So please take that on while we see what we can work out with Kunle.
Okay, your question is on the subsidy, right? Is that correct?
Moving beyond that to looking at how the president's handled the petroleum industry.
How we can do what?
How the president's handled the petroleum industry, oil and gas, downstream, upstream, all of it.
Okay, how he handled it, you ask, you mean President Muhammad Buhari, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, I think one of the giants, right, and quite very commendable, the thing that happened was like the Petroleum Industry Act, which was like a giant's right. It's true that with the high hope that raised, for whatever reason, it was suspended because we could not see all of its implementation or operationalization, which would have been able to revolutionize the petroleum industry. But I think one of the issues we need to begin to like have more conversations on, if you ask me, issue about, okay, fine, how do we really move on? Or in the case of still assessing President Muhammad Buhari, I would say one aspect I think he would have scored very high if he was able to fully operationalize, refurbish, and ensure that all our refineries are working at its apex and at its premium value. So that with that, because one aspect of this conversation, which is very important for us to remind ourselves, is that if we as a nation have the capacity to refine all of the oil we need in the nation for the public sector, not just maybe for maybe like a private refining platform, but then we now have a situation where we don't need to like subsidize anything, because the issue of subsidy comes in because you want to import oil, and of course there is a difference between what citizens can afford and the international selling price of maybe like petroleum. So you have to like pay the difference to be able to make it accessible to the citizens. But I think that if we have a situation where we refine as much as we need, and we now come to the point of not only selling refined products to other nations, which gives us more as a people, but also leveraging on all that economic value chain associated with the petroleum, because there are many products associated with the crude oil, up to over 140 of them, pharmaceuticals, you talk about bicycle tire, too many things that can be gotten from that. And what we've just been doing over the time is that by exporting the crude oil to other nations, giving them the raw material, we actually lose out on the real value that we ought to get from this. I mean, there is a recent research that shows that for every oil we sell in its crude form, Nigeria loses hundreds of dollars, right? Just on each barrel of crude oil. Meanwhile, you know that the official selling rate, I mean, at the moment, should be less than $100 for a barrel of crude oil. But what that can give you, can give you like up to like $800. So you can imagine like about how much we're losing by selling it in its crude form. And that's the beauty of economics, because if you get into the forest to hew down a tree, and you want to sell it as a log of wood, you could sell it for 20,000. If you get that log of wood, refine it further by cutting it into planks, you could sell it up to 100,000 naira. But if you get those same planks, refine it, give it a touch, and then it becomes a furniture, I mean, the value could be as much as 1 million naira. And that's the dynamics. That is why, like, part of our economic policies, if we want to truly transform Nigeria, should be how do we make the best use of our raw materials?
Value addition.
Well, of course, you still have live feed there from the Eagle Square in Abuja, where proceedings are still ongoing with the inauguration of the new president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And just a quick reminder, that there's still a tribunal in place. Of course, there you see the outgoing president, Muhammadu Buhari, as we bring you live feed from the inauguration. We, of course, very likely will be streaming it live to hear the new president take his oath of office. And, of course, along with the vice president. There you see the outgoing president, Muhammadu Buhari, as he arrives the Eagle Square this morning in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. We continue the conversations this morning. Shegun Shopitan, I'm going to bring you back in to once again speak on the Bola Ahmed Tinubu that you know from, 1999 to 2007. That's a really, really long time ago. But one of the things that President Muhammadu Buhari was heavily criticized on was his failure to take action. In times when, if you remember a couple of years ago, there was heavy criticism with the service chiefs, and of course the fact that they needed to be sacked because of the failure of security in Nigeria in different parts of the country. He didn't act. He took his time. Eventually, they got replaced. Some of them were made ambassadors. It almost feels like they were celebrated for failure, at that time. If you also looked at the situation with regards oil theft, where the stories came out about how much Nigeria was losing every day to oil theft, it doesn't still seem like the government cared much about taking action, about punishing people, about making sure that those things were stopped. Bola Ahmed Tinubu that you know of, is he the type of person that will take action when it is extremely important?
Well,
just apologies, just before you get into that, we are also in Ogun State in Nigeria. There is the governor, Dapo Abiodun, who has been re-elected for a second term, entering into the MKO Abiola Stadium. He's also going to be sworn in very shortly. So on the left, you have Abuja. On the right, you have Ogun State in Nigeria as well. Dapo Abiodun entering into the stadium. He will also shortly be sworn in. As of now, in Eagle Square, we have President Muhammadu Buhari, Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo, President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as well as Vice President-elect Kashim Shettima. A number of dignitaries, a number of African presidents also are present for the swearing in of Nigeria's new president. So just give you some updates on that program. So we will join Abuja very quickly right now to see a number of things happening there and come back to the conversations in the studio.
From the official inauguration of the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We've just seen President Muhammad Buhari making the rounds, saying hello to his brother heads of state as one of the last things he's going to be doing before he retires.
So we'll get back to Abuja in just a bit, boss. I know you had a question for Shegun, and then we'll give you a roll call of the presidents who are also here in Nigeria for this auspicious occasion.
Well, yeah. So talking about whether, the man Bola Tinubu will be the type of president that will make the changes that are needed and maybe take the hard decisions that are needed per time, especially with regards to those issues that you mentioned. I think that in terms of his personality, the answer will be a firm yes, and we've seen that, in the past in Lagos, even into the recent past. Bola Tinubu has never shied away from making changes when he felt that they were necessary. As the leader of the APC in Lagos and as the man we all know to control, the politics of Lagos, he discarded governors, in quotes, when he felt there was a need to, based, according to him, on feedback from people. So that's just an example.
But that's why I like how he said, according to him.
According to him, so I chose my words very well. So arguably, but that shows that he's not afraid to confront those types of decisions when he feels they need to be made. So I do not, for example, see a Tinubu keeping service chiefs for 8 years. It was unprecedented. There was no government, no president before President Buhari who had kept service chiefs in office for the entirety of their terms in office, 2 full terms. The longest serving service chiefs that we had before Buhari served 5 years. Yeah. And that was in the military era. So it was unprecedented. I don't think we'll see that from Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The question, however, is will he? And I always refer to this. There is the question of the capacity and the ability and the temperament. and the question of the willingness based on his interests. And this is where I have no clue, because I don't have any confidence, that, for example, he will confront the rot, the opacity in the oil and gas industry. That industry is murky. It's full of corruption and filth.
Yeah, and people would argue that it takes a lot
bottom.
of guts, for you to get into that battle.
Absolutely. But a president of Nigeria has the capacity, the power, the state machinery to take that battle on if he has the will. I don't think this president will have the will. And I don't think we'll see much change in that regard. So I'm sorry, I am not holding my breath to see, for example, our crude per day, production per day numbers peak above the highest we've ever had, which is about 1.8 thereabouts million barrels per day. We have the capacity to produce way above 2 million barrels per day. But,
right.
The corruption in the system will not allow that to happen.
Yep. Now let's go live to the Federal Capital Territory, Eagle Square there, and of course give you live feed from what's currently going on Inauguration Day 2023.
We thank you for all he's been able to do. I will thank you for his family. Lord, we ask that you continue to take care of him. Be with him as in his office today. We pray, O Lord, for the new president, your son, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, His Excellency. Father, we ask for your blessings upon him. We ask, O Lord, that he's looking up unto you today. And he's saying, where will my help come from? His help will come from you. Because you are the maker of heaven and earth. You will not allow him to stumble. You are the one that is keeping watch over him. He will never stumble, nor the sun will strike him in the day, nor the moon in the night. You will protect his going out and coming in from this time forward. We cover the entire nation with the blood of Jesus Christ. No weapon formed against our nation will ever prosper. Any time that rises against Nigeria, Lord, you will condemn in judgment. Father, assure you, Bola Tinubu, China will be peaceful, will be refreshing, and he will not die in office. He shall be well with him. He shall be well with the first lady. He shall be well with the children. He shall be well with everyone that belongs to us in Nigeria. And Lord, Nigeria will go to the next level. It is a new dawn, oh Lord. Father, take control. Son, take control. Holy Spirit, take control. Let your name be glorified. Today is a new beginning. It shall be well with our nation. It shall be well with all of us. It shall be well with people that are rejoicing with us. And after all said and done, if every other thing given to us is taken away, your Holy Spirit will never depart from our life. Give us a place in your eternal place. Thank you, Holy Spirit. We know you will do far more exceedingly, even than our own expectation, because you are our maker. In Jesus' most wonderful name, we are praying. Amen. And the people of the Lord will say, people of God will say, people of the Most High God are saying, come on, do something for the Lord Jesus.
Amen. Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, that was the opening prayers done by Imam Dr. Muhammad Kabir and Bishop Stephen from Ekiti. Your Excellencies, the most distinguished invited guests, senior officers, ladies and gentlemen, to recall that the Nigerian general elections were held in our dear country some months ago. The presidential and national assembly elections was conducted on 5th February 2023. The elections ended with the governorship and state assembly elections on 18 March 2023. During the presidential elections, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCMR, and his running mate, His Excellency Kashim Fatima of the ruling party, all Progressive Congress, APC for short, were declared winner. And it's on that note that we are gathered here to witness the presidential inauguration and swearing-in ceremony on this auspicious and winning event.
Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, il faut savoir que les élections générales ont eu lieu au Nigeria il y a quelques mois. Les élections présidentielles et celles de l'Assemblée nationale ont eu lieu le 25 février 2023. Après les élections, le président et son ministre, son Excellence Bola Ahmed Tinubu, et son Excellence Kashim Shettima du parti au pouvoir sont déclarés les gagnants. Voilà pourquoi nous sommes ici pour cette occasion historique, l'investiture et la prestation des serments au président et au vice-président. Merci beaucoup.
On that note, let me now respectfully invite the Chief of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, Hajjussan Bello, who will in turn invite His Lordship, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Olukayode Ariwola, Grand Commander of the Order of Nigeria, to administer the oath of office.
Son Excellence, Mesdames et Messieurs, j'ai le grand plaisir d'inviter le greffier en chef de la Cour suprême du Nigeria qui va inviter sa seigneurie, le juge en chef du Nigeria, la justice Olukayode Ariwola, pour faire prêter le serment d'office au vice-président du Nigeria, Son Excellence Alhaji Kashim Shettima.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the Chief Justice Olukayode Ariwola is the head of the judicial arm of the government of Nigeria and presides over the country's Supreme Court and the National Judicial Council. Honorable Justice Ariwola was appointed and confirmed Chief Justice of Nigeria on 27 June and 21st September 2022, respectively. Before his elevation to the Supreme Court, his lordship served as Justice of Court of Appeal in Kaduna, Enugu, and Lagos divisions. This morning, his lordship Ariwola will carry out his statutory responsibility as he administers the oath of office to His Excellency Vice President-elect Kashim Shettima and His Excellency President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Thank you very much. At this juncture, with deference to the office of the Vice President, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, may I now crave the indulgence of the Commander Gas Brigade to respectfully invite His Excellency, the Vice President-elect of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Kashim Shettima, Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger, to please proceed to the saluting days for the oath of office, and he is to be accompanied by his wife, Hajiana Shettima.
Mesdames et Messieurs, l'activité que nous allons témoigner dans quelques minutes est la prestation des serments d'office au vice-président élu, Son Excellence Sa Kashim Shettima, et sera faite par le juge en chef du Nigeria, Son Excellence Sa Majesté, la justice Ariwola. Merci beaucoup.
Oath of allegiance. I, Kashim Shettima, do solemnly swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and that I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So help me God. Judicial oath. I, Kashim Shettima, do solemnly swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That as Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I will discharge my duties and perform my functions honestly to the best of my ability and faithfully in accordance with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the law. That I will abide by the Code of Conduct contained in the 5th schedule of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That I will not allow my personal interest to influence my official conduct or my official decisions. That I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So help me God.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a still event unfolding here at the Eagle Square, Abuja, Nigeria, venue for the presidential inauguration and swearing-in ceremony between the outgoing president and the president-elect of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We witnessed a while ago the vice president-elect taking his oath of office.
Mother is also right. I wasn't sure if it is growing. This one will not go in. Put it back. Is it correct?
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause for the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency, Vice President Kashim Shettima, Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger. Congratulations, Your Excellency. At this point, may I crave the indulgence of the Commander Gas Brigade to kindly usher the new Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to take his seat at the VIP stand. The Commander, sir.
Mesdames et messieurs, c'était la prestation de serment au nouveau vice-président du Nigeria, son Excellence Kashim Shettima, qui est accompagné avec sa belle-femme Hadja Nana Kashim Shettima.
Your Excellencies, distinguished invited guests,
Mesdames et messieurs,
ladies and gentlemen.
Le vice-président du Nigeria, il est allé saluer le président sortant, son Excellence président Muhammadu Buhari, et le vice-président, vice-président Yemi Osinbajo. Nous avons des personnalités ici. Nous avons ici même devant moi le président du Libéria, le président George Weah, le président du Niger, et autres personnalités qui sont là au nom de la fraternité et la solidarité africaine. Soyez les bienvenus. Le ballon d'or, le seul ballon d'or africain.
Thank you very much. Next to be sworn in is the exalted office of His Excellency, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Federal Republic of Nigeria. May I once again crave the indulgence of the Commander Gas Brigade to please invite His Excellency, the 16th President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, to the saluting base for the swearing in of oath of office. And he's being accompanied by
Excellence, invité distingué, mesdames et messieurs, c'est un moment historique pour le Nigeria. J'invite respectueusement le commandant de la brigade des gardes, invité le président de la République fédérale du Nigeria, son Excellence Bola Ahmed Tinubu, accompagné par sa belle femme, Madame Oluremi Tinubu, pour la prestation du serment. Excellence, vous avez la parole.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Badeja.
Bola Ahmed Tinubu, do solemnly swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and that I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So help me God.
Applaudissements, applaudissements.
Bola Ahmed Tinubu, do solemnly swear that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I will discharge my duties and perform my functions honestly, to the best of my ability, and faithfully, in accordance with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the law. That I will abide by the Code of Conduct contained in the 5th schedule to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That I will not allow my personal interests to influence my official conduct or my official decisions. That I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So help me God.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause for the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as he takes his oath of office and signs the dotted lines confirming him as the new President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
C'est le moment historique. Maintenant, la prestation du serment par son Excellence, le Président de la Nigeria, son Excellence Bola Ahmed Tinubu, qui maintenant prête le serment. Maintenant, c'est la signature.
While the President is signing, Just like her predecessor, we heartily welcome the 16th First Lady, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Her Excellency, Senator Mrs. Oluremi Tinubu, wife of the 16th President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, an educationist, administrator, and philanthropist, Oluremi Tinubu, as First Lady of Lagos State, established the New Era Foundation, dedicated to establishing centers for all-round development of young ones and promote public awareness on environmental health and community service. Oluremi Tinubu has executed a lot of philanthropical acts to alleviate the plight of indigent persons, and most importantly, she has touched the lives of girls and women in her constituency. In recognition of her achievements and contribution to societal upliftment, Senator Oluremi Tinubu has been honored severally, both locally and internationally. Among these are the National Award of the Officer of the Order of the Niger, Ghana Noble International Award of Leadership, Gambia Diamond Award for immense contribution to the emancipation of people from poverty, many citations and chieftaincy titles. In appreciation of her contribution as a role model, the West African Women Association named the Oluremi Tinubu Women Training Center in Gorom, Senegal, after her. From First Lady, Lagos State, to Senator, and today, the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You are heartily welcome on board.
Mesdames et messieurs, voici le moment. Eagle Square a éclaté. Nous avons applaudi avec la prestation de serment au président du Nigeria, son Excellence, Président Bola Ahmed Tinubu, le Jagaban. La biographie de la première dame nigériane. La première dame nigériane, Madame Oluremi Tinubu, elle est pédagogue, l'administrateur, philanthrope. Elle est née le 21 septembre 1960. Madame Tinubu a fait ses études supérieures à l'université d'Ife, après lequel elle est devenue la première dame de Lagos. Elle a posé sa candidature aux élections. Elle est devenue membre député depuis le 28 mars 2015. Madame Tinubu, en reconnaissance de ses réalisations et réalisation de ses contributions à l'amélioration de la société, elle a été honorée plusieurs fois, localement et internationalement. Actuellement, elle est la 6e première dame du Nigeria. Félicitations, membre de député Oluremi Tinubu, la nouvelle première dame du Nigeria. Merci beaucoup.
Okay. Go this way with the family. Go this way. Oh, yeah.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause for the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Grand Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Your Excellency, congratulations once again.
Excellence, Monsieur le Président, félicitations au Président du 16e du Nigeria, Son Excellence, Président Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Excellence, félicitations, félicitations, Excellence.
Distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the swearing in, what we shall be witnessing next is the lowering of the national and defense flags, which may interest all our dignitaries to know that at the end of every dispensation, the national and defense flags are being lowered, which signifies the end of a dispensation. A new national and defense flag are being received from His Excellency, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, to be hoisted back on the poles. signifying the commencement of a new dispensation. We shall be witnessing that shortly. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, taking you back to the happenings on the parade ground, to the far right of the parade, we can see the color bearers who would be participating in the lowering and hosting of the new national and defense flag, and are being accompanied this morning by the Regimental Sergeant Major Gas Brigade, Nigerian Army, Master Warrant Officer Aliu Umar. The flag bearers are Corporal Kalu Chigozie of the Nigerian Army, Able Siman Etimo Emmanuel of the Nigerian Navy, Sergeant Kanu Samson of the Nigerian Army, and Sergeant Undoma Patrick of the Nigerian Air Force. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it may interest you to know that this highly regimented aspect of the occasion is usually observed during transition of power, as we will witness shortly. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please happy viewing.
Mesdames et messieurs, l'activité que nous témoignons à côté des haches de salutation et l'abaissement des drapeaux. Il y a deux drapeaux, si vous voyez bien. Il y a le drapeau de la défense et le drapeau national. L'abaissement des drapeaux signifie la nouvelle ère et le nouveau drapeau, le nouveau ère dans la dispensation de la justice au Nigeria. Et voici ce que nous allons témoigner. Les activités sont faites par deux soldats de marine nationale et de l'armée de terre.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please may we all rise while officers and warrant officers in uniform are to salute as the national and defense flag are being lowered while the retreat is played. Thank you.
Mesdames et messieurs, les officiers en uniforme et les sous-officiers doivent saluer. C'est une activité très militaire qui signifie la passation du pouvoir entre l'ancien président Ahmed Buhari et le nouveau président Bola Ahmed Tinubu. C'est une activité par la force armée nigériane qui va signifier le changement de drapeau, entre autres. Merci beaucoup.
Distinguished guests, ladies and seats. Thank you. That was the lowering of the national and defense flag done by Corporal Carlo Chigozie of the Nigerian Army and Able Seaman Etimoa Emmanuel of the Nigerian Navy, signifying the end of a dispensation in the political arena of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And at the end of the lowering of the national and defense flags, they would now proceed to fold the flag before handing them over to the Regimental Sergeant Major Gas Brigade, who will in turn proceed to hand it over to the Commander Gas Brigade, Brigadier General A.M. Umar, after which he will also proceed to hand it over to the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabo, CFR, who would be finally handing it over to the immediate past president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Muhammad Buhari, signifying the end of his administration. We shall be witnessing that shortly.
Stand up! Ce qui se passe, mesdames et messieurs, est le pillage des deux drapeaux, le drapeau national et le drapeau de la défense. Et comme j'ai dit, vous verrez les deux officiers qui sont au terrain de parade. Il y a le commandant de brigade de garde, le général de brigade A.M. Umar, qui va recevoir les deux anciens drapeaux et les deux nouveaux drapeaux. Il le passera au chef du corps de la défense, le général Lucky Irabo. Et Irabo passera les deux drapeaux au président du Nigeria, le président Bola Ahmed Tinubu. C'est ça qui signifie le début d'une nouvelle ère de la dispensation et de la gouvernance au Nigeria. C'est une activité très militaire et indication qui indique la passation du pouvoir. Voilà pourquoi nous sommes ici ce matin. Merci beaucoup.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, what you are witnessing at the moment is the folding of the national and defense flags, and they are being done by Corporal Carlo Chigozie of the Nigerian Army, Able Seaman Etimoa Emmanuel of the Nigerian Navy, Sergeant Samson Kanu of the Nigerian Army, and Sergeant Ndoma Patrick of the Nigeria Air Force. You can see them paying compliment after folding the flag as the flag bearers turn about and march smartly towards the Regimental Sergeant Major Guards Brigade, Master Warrant Officer Aliu Umar, who is carrying a case as he pays compliment and opens the case. You can see first the defense flag is being placed and the old national flag is also being placed in the case carried by the Regimental Sergeant Major Gas Brigade. To pay compliment as he turns to his right, marching smartly towards the Commander Gas Brigade, Brigadier General A.M. Umar. He comes to a halt as the commander pays compliment. He takes a step forward and hands over the case flag to the Commander Gas Brigade as he takes his steps backward, paying compliment. And the commander turns to his right, marching towards the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabo, CFR, who pays compliment before receiving the case flag from the commander.
Le général de corps de brigade vient de passer le drapeau national et le drapeau de la défense. Son Excellence, le général Irabo marche majestueusement vers le président. Il passera le drapeau à l'ancien président Buhari et M. Buhari passera le drapeau au nouveau président Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
You can see the Chief of Defense Staff handing over the old national and defense flags to the immediate past President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Muhammad Buhari, signifying the end of his administration, as a new national and defense flag will be given once again to the Chief of Defense Staff. You can see the new cased flag, the new cased national and defense flag being presented to the new President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who will in turn present the new national and defense flag to the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Rabo, CFR, as he turns about.
Le président Bola Ahmed Tinubu a passé le drapeau au chef de corps de l'armée de la défense, le général Irabo. Irabo passera le drapeau au commandant des gardes de brigade et nous aurons l'usage de ces deux drapeaux dans quelques minutes. C'est la passation du pouvoir. Merci beaucoup.
We can see the Chief of Defense Staff handing over the case flag to the Commander Guards Brigade, who turns about and proceeds to hand it over to the Regimental Sergeant Major Guards Brigade Nigerian Army, Master Warrant Officer Aliu Umar, as he pays compliment and receives the case flag from the Commander Guards Brigade, Brigadier General A.M. Umar, who pays compliment as the Regimental Sergeant Major turns about carrying the brand new case national and defense flags to hand it over to the flag bearers as they pay compliment. He opens the case flag, and first to be retrieved is the new national flag by Sergeant Undoma Patrick of the Nigerian Air Force, and the new defense flag by Sergeant Kanu Samson of the Nigerian Army. He pays compliment as they turn about and proceed to hand them over to Corporal Kalu Chigozie of the Nigerian Army and Able Seaman Etimo Emmanuel of the Nigerian Navy. Compliment being paid there once again as they take a step forward to receive the brand new national and defense flags compliment being paid as a turnabout and proceed to the polls for the hosting of the national and defense flags respectively, signifying the beginning of a new administration of the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR.
Mesdames et messieurs, vous témoignez maintenant l'issage du drapeau national et du drapeau de la défense, ce qui signifie le commencement de la nouvelle administration et une nouvelle ère pour le Nigeria. C'est vraiment un moment historique, l'issage du nouveau drapeau. Merci.
National salute! Present!
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please may we all rise as the reveille is played while the new national and defense flags are being hoisted. Thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the Nigerian Air Force Acosta 109 helicopter is what you are seeing flying past with the national colors to support the hoisting of the national and defense flag, respectively.
C'est toujours l'issage du drapeau national et du drapeau de la défense.
May please take your seats, thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the lowering and hosting of the national and defense flag, respectively, may I now most respectfully request the Chief of Defense Staff, General Loki Irabo, CFR, to take his seat, and may I also crave the indulgence of the Commander Gas Brigade to usher the immediate past President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to take his seat. The Commander, sir. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's the event unfolding here at the Eagle Square, Abuja, Nigeria, where activities climaxing the presidential inauguration and swearing-in ceremony of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We witnessed a short while ago the lowering and hosting of the national and defense flag, respectively, signifying the end and beginning of a new dispensation. What we shall be witnessing any moment from now is the inspection of the various guards by the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR.
Very good.
History has just been made here at Eagle Square. The next item on the activities here would be an inspection by the new president. But a short moment ago, we saw the immediate past president, Muhammad Buhari, exit the Eagle Square. Right now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will inspect the parade, and that is being set up.
Parade! Formed up! 29 officers! 450 members of the armed forces and Nigerian police on parade, ready for your inspection. Your Excellency.
Your Excellencies, most distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, that was the voice of the parade commander, Lieutenant Colonel Salim Yusuf Hassan, reporting the state of the parade to the special guest of honor and requesting for the inspection of the various guards. At this point, permit me to hand over the microphone to my co-compare, Flight Lieutenant Festus Ezenyi, to guide us through the inspection of the various guards.
Thank you very much, Captain Godfrey Anebi Abapa, for the commentary so far. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, may I acquaint you with the citation on His Excellency, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Grand Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic. The special guest of honor and reviewing officer for today's historic occasion, former senator and two-term governor of Lagos State, the founding member and former national leader of Nigeria's governing party, the All Progressives Congress, a notable progressive leader, His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is a visionary who has made personal sacrifices to advance the common goal in Nigeria and beyond. His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu obtained a degree in business administration, accounting and management from Chicago State University, Illinois, United States of America in 1979. He was on Chicago State University Dean's List throughout his stay at the university and won an outstanding Students Award and also bagged a certificate of merit in accounting and finance. In his final year, he emerged president, Chicago State University Accounting Society. It should be worthy of mention that while still in the university, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu was headhunted for both international and local companies, including Mobile Nigeria, where he held important positions like senior auditor and company treasurer. He left the company to embark upon his political career in 1989. The virtues of courage, determination, commitment, vision, focus, and a strong sense of purpose that have characterized Bola Tinubu's politics drove his emergence as one of the country's most successful governors after Nigeria's return to democratic governance 23 years ago. His stewardship of Lagos State between 1999 and 2007 remains a reference for good governance in Nigeria and across the region. Among the most consequential and impressive of his achievements as the governor of Lagos was his revolution of the state's environmental policies and the creation of thousands of jobs for Lagosians through the private sector partnership program he established. Other important achievements while governor of Lagos include education reforms, under which now thriving mission schools were returned to their original owners after decades of government control. Free education and West African Examination Council forms for school leavers, giving underprivileged children access to further education, more career opportunities, and better life prospects. Civil service reforms, which led directly to the introduction of a more responsive and expert-led civil service in Lagos. Judicial reforms and the Lagos Master Plan blueprint, which has been and continues to be followed with great success by all subsequent governors of Lagos. Also worthy of mention is that as a first-class financial strategist, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu overhauled and reformed government and revenue collection in the state, taking Lagos from a yearly internally generated revenue of 14.64 billion naira in 1999 to 60.31 billion naira in 2006. These innovations laid the groundwork necessary for Lagos to have the revenue to improve the state and modernize living conditions of all of its inhabitants. A graceful leader imbued with courage and commitment to justice. Bola Tinubu combines practical, political acumen, strategic vision, and moral principle. When the history of the first 2 decades of the 21st century in Nigeria is written, it will record Bola Tinubu's rare courage and foresight in guiding his party, the All Progressive Congress, to victory in 2015, and how, working with other patriots, he abolished the determined efforts of the then ruling party to turn Nigeria into a one-party state. His Excellency Bola Tinubu knows politics much as he understands the game of power. Indeed, his democratic footprints go beyond Nigeria. They span the continent, especially in the immediate West African sub-region, where he has contributed personal resources, advice, and support to help sustain democracy and popular participation in many of the region's emergent democracies. His Excellency Bola Tinubu has served the cause of humanity and expanded the frontiers of freedom and democracy in Nigeria and the African continent. He is one of the Nigerians' foremost nationalists and champions of federalism. As one of the few leaders and champions of democracy with the potential and experience to improve the fortunes of his people, Bola Tinubu is the very best man, and today the 16th president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is happily married to his lovely wife, the 16th First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Her Excellency Senator Mrs. Oluremi Tinubu, and the union is blessed with amazing children.
Mesdames et messieurs, Son Excellence, le 16e président de la République fédérale du Nigeria et commandant en chef des forces armées du Nigeria, GCFR, est né le 29 mars 1952. Il a été 2 fois le gouverneur d'État de Lagos, pendant laquelle il a fait des réformes durables dans les domaines pédagogiques, financiers, judiciaires et la création des emplois. Son Excellence a eu sa licence en l'administration des affaires, comptabilité et la gestion à l'Université de Chicago, Illinois, aux États-Unis. Il a aussi travaillé comme l'unité supérieure à mobile.
Il va continuer avec les célébrations militairement. Ouais.
Thank you. That was the citation on His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. May I now hand over to my co-compare, Captain Anebi Ababa, to continue with the remaining parade.
Thank you very much, Flight Lieutenant. First to say Mrs. Olubumi Badejo and Mr. Mohammed Tijani for the wonderful citation of the special guest of honor on this auspicious occasion. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the inspection, we shall witness shortly the parade commander seeking permission to continue with the rest of the parade.
May I have your permission to carry on with the rest of the parade, Your Excellency?
Presidential permission has been sought there and graciously granted by His Excellency, the special guest of honor and the reviewing officer for today's historic occasion. We can see the parade commander, Lieutenant Colonel Salim Yusuf Hassan, riding on a white horse named GMB to take his position to commence the march past. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please happy viewing.
Hands into the colors. Take pose. Red uniform. 3 ranks. Form 3 ranks. Close order. March. Inwards turn. Red will mark pass. Islam quick time. Division into columns. Forming squad on the right and left. Color party leading by the center. Right and left wheel. Slow march.
Your Excellencies, most distinguished invited guests, very senior officers, ladies and gentlemen, there's still events unfolding here at the Eagle Square, where activities climaxing the presidential inauguration and swearing in ceremony of the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR. Witness a while ago the parade commander giving orders for the guards to form 3 ranks and commence the march past. What you are witnessing now are the guards forming squad without changing formation, before forming an extended line formation by the guards towards the saluting desk, led by the color party. The essence is for the guards to pay their respect to the special guest of honor who has taken his position on the saluting days, and also for the reviewing officer to take a close look at the turnout of the guards who are impeccably dressed at close range. Before presenting arms to the special guest of honor, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Grand Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it will also interest you to know that the file pass towards the saluting days and the forming squads by the guards is another display of silent drill, as the guards are only reacting to the initial words of command given by the parade commander before the commencement of the march pass. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please happy viewing.
Excellences, les officiers supérieurs, les chefs d'État des pays africains qui nous ont honorés avec leur présence, mesdames et messieurs, ce que nous voyons maintenant actuellement, c'est les membres de la force armée nigériane avec le commandant des parades en avance, les escortes des drapeaux, les réduits. Ils marchent vers le dias de salutation afin de montrer et justifier la loyauté de la force armée nigériane au président, son Excellence Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Il marche majestueusement, calmement, avec la dignité, courage, la fierté, qui sont les qualités de l'armée dans le monde. Vraiment, c'est une activité kaléidoscopique, pleine de couleurs, qui signifie une nouvelle ère de la disposition, nouvelle disposition au Nigeria. Mon commandant, mon capitaine Abakpa, je passe la parole à vous.
Monsieur Mohammed Tijani, distinguished guests, very senior officers, ladies and gentlemen, what you are watching at the moment are the guards forming squad to the right and left of the parade ground, preparatory for the presenting of arms to the special guest of honor to show their unalloyed loyalty to the exalted office of the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. To the left half of the saluting days, we have the number 1, 2, and 3 guards provided by the Nigerian Army. And to the right half of the saluting days, we have the number 4 guard provided by the Nigerian Navy. Special guest of honor as they turn about now are the color party, and we have 4 colors on parade this morning. We have the national color, the Nigerian Army regimental color, the Navy color, and the Air Force color being carried by commissioned officers known as ensigns to the colors. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, witnessed a while ago the various guards paying compliments, all to show their loyalty to the special guest of honor. After paying compliments, we are now retreating back in an orderly fashion. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please stand.
Mesdames et messieurs, comme vous voyez, il y a 6 gardes comparables ce matin. Nous avons les 2 premiers gardes composés de l'armée de terre nigériane. La 4e garde est composée de la marine nationale. La 5e garde est composée de l'armée de l'air nigériane. Et nous avons aussi la 6e garde composée par la police nationale. Le président s'approche. Levez-vous s'il vous plaît.
How are you?
Your Excellencies, most distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, as we sit back and enjoy this beautiful parade by these amazing officers and men, permit me to acquaint you with the significance of 21-gun salute, which is part of activities lined up for today's celebration. The 21-gun salute is a military tradition used to accord respect or honor to dignitaries. Generally, saluting is done using hand, sword, colors, small arms, and firing of artillery guns. Salute by gunfire is an ancient ceremony which originated in the 17th century and involves the use of artillery guns to fire ammunition, usually blanks, to welcome important dignitaries or commemorate an anniversary. Traditionally, gun salutes are presented to honor or welcome a foreign president or head of state on a state visit. It is also used to cover reopen days, marking of public holidays and independence anniversary celebrations. Others include Ascension Day, state funeral of a late president, and Independence Day. In Nigeria, gun salute is provided during armed forces members' celebrations, inauguration parades, independence anniversary, and in honor of visiting presidents. Today, we shall be witnessing the firing of 21-gun salute to signify the great respect and unflinching loyalty that the Nigerian Armed Forces and the Nigeria Police have for the exalted office and the personage of His Excellency, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Federal Republic of Nigeria. On that note, that I request our distinguished guests not to panic at the sound of the volleys by the State House artillery battery when the 21-gun salute is being fired. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please have a view.
Merci beaucoup, le capitaine Abakwa. Les officiers supérieurs, mesdames et messieurs, permettez-moi de vous donner une petite histoire du coup de canon. Coup de canon est une activité militaire. Le coup de canon est fait à l'honneur du président en visite. Et si nous avons passé le président en visite au Nigeria, ou au cours de l'anniversaire du chef d'État, ou le jour férié. Le coup de canon, on les tire aussi le jour de l'indépendance. Et
Please, dignitaries standing in front of the state box are requested to move back to their seats. You are not expected to stand in front of the state box. Please move back to your seats. Move back to your seats. If you don't have anything to do in front of the state box, you are kindly requested to go back to your seats. Thank you.
Your Excellencies, taking you back to the happenings on the parade ground. Advancing squarely towards the saluting dice is the mass band. The mass band on parade today comprises personnel of the Nigerian Armed Forces and the Nigerian Police Force. The band is commanded by Squadron Leader Amos Adeyinka Olodude, the Assistant Director of Music, Headquarters Nigerian Air Force. He is assisted by Captain Kennedy Bua of the Nigerian Army and Lieutenant Commander Emmanuel Oluwole Ajayi of the Nigerian Navy and Deputy Superintendent of Police Abdulrazak Mohammed. There are 6 guards on parade this morning, and each guard has a guard commander, 2 sub-guard commanders, and a strength of 48 personnel. As we can see, the parade commander, Lieutenant Colonel Salim Yusuf Hassan, riding on a Sudanese-built ox named GMB, is approaching the saluting dice to pay compliment to the special guest of honor, His Excellency, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR. And behind the parade commander is parade second in command, Lieutenant Commander Kuzayat Yali Kaza, riding on a Dogola breed horse named Yaya, after the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yaya, Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic. We shall now begin by taking a quick look at various guards on parade. The number 1 guard is commanded by Major Hamza Yakubu Musa. The left sub-guard commander is Captain Jamil Ma Issa. The right sub-guard commander is Captain Teslim Folarin Sikiru. And the conducting warrant officer behind the guard is Warrant Officer Abubakar Mani. That is number 1 guard paying compliment right now. And marching closely behind number 1 guard is number 2 guard, which is commanded by Major Deborah Oluwafunmilola Jayola. The left sub-guard commander is Captain Amina Ibrahim Shankar. And the right sub-guard commander is Captain Olaide Ebolua Ogumola. The conducting warrant officer behind number 2 guard is Warrant Officer Elechi Fates. Marching closely behind number 2 guard is number 3 guard, which is commanded by Major Benjamin Toruwa Adoka.
All right, there you have it. Live feed from the Eagle Square in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, where Bola Ahmed Tinubu has officially been sworn in as Nigeria's next president, along with Kashim Shettima, the vice president-elect. And of course, they have the mantle of leadership for the next 4 years in Nigeria. And of course, you know, what you're currently watching is a military parade. The president is going to be giving a speech and addressing Nigerians, you know, as official as Nigeria's president for the very first time. And we hope that it will be a regular occurrence. I've said this a couple of times this morning. The outgoing president, or President Muhammadu Buhari, or former president, oh, that's interesting. Former President Muhammadu Buhari didn't do a lot of addresses to Nigerians. We hope that Bola Ahmed Tinubu will do more of that. But of course, those are scenes from the Federal Capital Territory. Tolu, very, very interesting. We haven't seen this since 2019.
And it is, of course, very interesting moments now. A number of governors also being sworn in across Nigeria. Kano and Kwara earlier this morning. Governor Dapo Abiodun has also been re-sworn in as a second-term governor in Abeokuta in Ogun State. And as well, Babajide Sanwo-Olu here in Lagos State being sworn in again as governor of the state. So 18 re-elected and incoming governors. We're going to see them sworn in, and some, of course, taking the oath of office once again. It's been some interesting of course, situations in the aftermath of the presidential and gubernatorial elections. But let's see if we can get some of these visuals for you from Lagos as well, from the Tafawa Balewa Square, where Bernard Akede has been there since morning, covering the swearing in or re-swearing in of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. Expecting the governor there, if you can see around him taking the oath of office to become president, to become second-term governor in Lagos State. Second term, but his predecessor, Ambode. Yes, yeah. His predecessor was the first governor in Lagos State not to win a second term since Nigeria returned to democracy in 1999. Now, the new president of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, a former senator, a former two-term governor of Lagos State as well, followed by Babatunde Fashola, who was also a two-term governor, then Ambode. He served just one term, and now we're seeing Babajide Sanwo-Olu being sworn in for a second term as governor of Lagos, the largest economic capital that we have here in Nigeria. Also very big, probably the largest in West Africa. And it's said that if Lagos was a state or a country on its own, it'd probably be the 5th or 6th largest economy on the continent. So it's also very, very pivotal to see who is governor of Lagos and who leads this very viable, very interesting city as it is, and state as well. But we had a number of people who have watched Bola Tinubu being sworn in. There are a number of presidents of other African countries who have been president coming in since yesterday. We have the governor, I beg your pardon, we have the president of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, the president of Senegal, Macky Sall, as well as the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame. We have the president of Congo, Brazzaville, Denis Sassou Nguesso, as well as U.S. delegation being led by Secretary there, Marcia Fudge. We have the president of Tanzania, Samia Suluhu Hassan, as well as the Japanese delegation led by Tanika Kazuhori, who was a special envoy to the Prime Minister of Japan, and the president of Gambia, Adama Barrow, as well. So it's been a very dignitary-filled occasion in Abuja and, of course, across the country as we have new governors and we have old taking those oaths of office. But let's get back into the studio right now. Our guest is still with us, Segun Shokwitan, public affairs analyst, and now joining him, we have Dr. Omoshola Deji, political scientist. We are waiting to hear from now President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, his very first speech as president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Gentlemen, let's get into that because it should be happening in a matter of moments. What do you think this speech is going to take on? We've talked about the things that the Buhari administration has really sort of rated themselves on: security, electricity, employment, corruption, infrastructure. We know now the debt profile is a major conversation. Subsidy is a major conversation. What do you expect the president to really put his eyes and his promises to when it comes to his speech? Dr. Deji, let me start with you.
Well, I think the new president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, his speech should focus strictly on the issues that are most important to Nigerians at this point in time. which is how to address security, how to boost the economy, how to increase employment in the land. Because right now, he promised renewed hope. So he should walk the talk almost immediately by taking steps to make sure that hope is truly renewed. Because right now, for majority of Nigerians, the country is at the lowest low. So his speech should go straight to address what is most important to Nigerians. Then his speech should also douse tension. There's so much.
Let me just have you pause right now. Let's go to Abeokuta, Ogun State, MKO Abiola Stadium, where Dr. Abiodun is giving a speech as he has been sworn in.
Both serving and retired, chairman of statutory commissions, boards and parastatals, all members of the body of prominent secretaries, all our service chiefs, all local government council chairmen. Let me particularly thank and appreciate our royal fathers, starting with the chairman of Ogun State Council of Obas and the Akaribu and paramount ruler of Bremerland, His Royal Majesty, Oba Dr. Babatunde Ajayi, CFR. His Royal Majesty, Oba Dr. Adedotun Aremugbadebo, CFR, the Alake and paramount ruler of Egbeland. His Royal Majesty, Oba Dr. Kehinde Olugbenle, MFR, the Olu and paramount ruler of Yeweland. His Royal Highness, Oba Lawrence Jayoba Adebajo, the Orimolusi of Ijebubo, who is here today representing His Royal Majesty, Oba Dr. Sikiru Kayode Adetono, the Awujale and paramount ruler of Ijebuland. All our other royal fathers here present, all captains of industries, and all my friends that have come from far and near to be part of this celebration. All members of the Governor's Liaison Office, all members of the Governor's Advisory Council led by the Chairman Chief Olu Okuboejo, all heads of tertiary institutions, all our leaders, party faithfuls, both at home and in diaspora, the chairman of CAN Ogun State, Bishop Tunde Akisoya, our Archbishop Olushino Fakpe, the chief imams of both Yewa, Egba, Remo, and Ijebu, all our party chairmen and party leaders, all our other elder statesmen, all distinguished sons and daughters of Ogun State, all members of various groups and associations, all other very important personalities here present, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a pleasure and honor for me to be standing here today, having just been sworn in for the second time as the 5th elected governor of this great state. Today, to the glory of God and the support of the good people of Ogun State, we start a new chapter in the continued development agenda of this great state. On this day, 4 years ago, I stood at this same venue and gave my word, making the Almighty God my witness, that I would serve Ogun State and increase the individual prosperity of our people. I am deeply humbled and greatly honored to say that we have delivered on all our promises that we made at that time. It's been a great privilege for myself and my deputy to serve you in the last 4 years, to hold in custody the public trust on behalf of the people. Indeed, the experience has been very exciting, educative, and deeply humbling. In all this, I express on behalf of my team our sincere appreciation and gratitude to you, the good people of Ogun State, for giving us the opportunity to serve you. I want to thank you especially for your support, cooperation, and collaboration these past 4 years. I say a big thank you to all because we did it together. In addition, I want to appreciate you, my good people of Ogun State, for giving us another additional opportunity to serve you for an extra 4 years. You expressed this so eloquently on the 18th of March, 2023, through the ballot box, despite attempts to subdue democracy. Your flinching faith in our ability to deliver on our promises means so much to us, and we will not disappoint you. My Deputy Governor and I do not take your trust lightly. We are more than determined to do better than we have done before. It is important that as we appreciate our past successes, we recognize that we must work harder than we have ever done before. That is the way forward as we collectively march to the creation of a dream society guided by the mission statement in our Building Our Future Together agenda. Looking back at what we have achieved together in the last 4 years, you agree with me that we have delivered virtually on all our promises. Now let me begin to recount on the journey so far. On infrastructure, that promised on assumption of office, that our vision for Ogun State will be to give Ogun State a focused and qualitative governance whilst creating an enabling environment for public-private sector partnership, which is fundamental to the creation of an enduring economic development and the individual prosperity of our people. We never forgot this promise. This is why our infrastructure investments have been people-oriented and transformational. They have yielded consequent, obvious multiplier effects on the social economy of our dear state. Our confidence in this area are fairly and equitably distributed across the state, and they include, amongst others, over 400 kilometers of constructed, reconstructed, or rehabilitated roads comprising more than 80 major roads, lower level roads, and even federal roads. In 4 years, this administration has constructed more kilometers of roads than all previous administrations.
All right. There you have it. Prince Dakbo Abiodun, the, of course, governor-elect once again of Ogun State there, giving a speech after he has been sworn in, stating some of his achievements in the last 4 years as governor. And of course, very likely plans moving forward in the next 4 years as governor. We're also going to be listening to the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, as he also will be addressing Lagosians on achievements and prospects in the next 4 years, while we, of course, also wait for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to also share with Nigerians his plans for the country moving forward. We, of course, once again have guests with us in the studio, Dr. Omoshola DG and Shegun Shopiton still here with us. Pretty interesting times, I would say. Dr. Omoshola, I think you had a response to this question earlier.
Expectations of Tinubu's speech before we go and look at some of the state issues.
Well, my expectation for Tinubu's speech, again, should be to assure Nigerians about the rule of law, that justice, that if you disobey the law, then you have to kind of like pay for it. So it should assure Nigerians about development. I don't want to see a speech whereby we just be making congratulatory. Then I don't want to see him throw jabs at the opposition or all these 95%. No, I want to see a national figure, not a sectional.
Yeah.
Because one of the problems we've had is we've had people with sectional mindset in national position. So he coming on board now, I want to see somebody with a national mindset who will move beyond the electoral process to now see Nigerians as one and be really willing to rule with justice, fairness, and equity.
Yeah, just quickly before we talk about state, I want you to talk about the unity that is needed at this time. In the build up to the elections, presidential and state, there was seemingly a lot of bigotry and tribalism and all of that seemed to divide Nigerians. It probably was some of the tactics that were used, as a ploy to win the election by certain people. But it doesn't just go away after the elections; it stays. So I want you to talk about, what Bola Tinubu needs to do to unite Nigerians. There's 12 million people who didn't vote for him, and those people may not be very excited today.
Well, what he needs to do is to start on a fair and just note. If he starts on a fair and just note as regards his appointment, his speech, the conduct of his aides, then people will begin to kind of like gain that trust and confidence in him. Because right now, if you look at the mood of the nation, there are people that felt, based on the process of his emergence, that maybe he shouldn't be the one sworn in today. Now, he has been sworn in. Nigeria has to move on. Now, he now have to move to that level of statesmanship, to be fair, to be just, to rule with fairness, and to make sure that anything he does tends to serve the greatest number of people, not for a particular class. And if he tries to avoid this cabal in government, because it will be too early, people will be willing to kind of like lobby, hijack his government. But if he stands firm and if he is able to kind of like start on a good note, like I will be happy if today, at the end of his speech, he's able to announce his chief of staff, cabinet, just as Ramaphosa did in South Africa. There should be no vacuum in government, because Nigeria is at its lowest low already in all facets of life. But for you to leave vacuum in government will send wrong signal to people, to the international community, foreign investors. So it's a whole lot of job on him. And I think that it should be so wrong of him to start on the wrong, because the reason why there is gap between when you are declared winner and sworn in is for you to be able to prepare. So I want to believe that all along, he has been preparing. He has been thinking of, okay, who will be his Minister of Education, Minister of Power. And I want to see the effect of that preparation right now, immediately after he leaves the inauguration hall at Eagle Square.
All right. So, Shogun, very quickly on that so we can look at some of the state issues as well.
Well, look, for me, I think we need to see a departure from the norm and from the rituals that we do, So this speech is a ritual, as far as I'm concerned. And we need a transformational leader. And I'm just not confident that we're going to get that. So a leader that comes on board, use the opportunity of this speech to galvanize the energies of Nigerians behind the cause, behind the common vision. So what I would expect to hear from Tinubu, for example, today, is for him to paint a vision of what Nigeria would look like in 2027 when he finishes his first 4 terms, his first 4 years. Paint a picture. What do you think you want Nigeria to be? Sell that to us in the speech, so it becomes the starting point, and we can hold him to the things that he said today. I remember, Buhari in 2015 told us that he belonged to nobody. That was the iconic statement that came out of that speech, and it set the airways alight. It set a tone, but unfortunately, It was exactly the opposite. You know, he belonged to everybody and belonged to a very, very few set of people, and it did not belong to Nigerians.
Yeah.
You know, so we'd like to see a departure from that. We want to see a president that sells a vision of Nigeria to Nigerians and then pulls us along with him.
All right, so we'll come back to that. Of course, hopefully we'll be seeing newly sworn in President Bola Ahmed Tinubu speaking shortly. But now we're heading back to Lagos State, where a re-sworn in Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu is addressing the crowd there, and of course, addressing Lagosians, wherever they may be. All right, so we'll work on the audio with that, but that also naturally takes us into state conversations because Governor Sanwo-Olu is one of the APC governors who was re-elected with the elections that held. Nigeria had 28 states hold elections. 26 initially were announced within a few days. Then we had, of course, some conversation around Adamawa and Kebbi, but eventually we know that Kebbi also went to the All Progressives Congress with their candidate Nasiru Idris winning. In Adamawa was also the APC candidate. I beg your pardon, it was the PDP candidate. Am I correct or wrong? I'm correct now. No, so yeah. I knew something was wrong. It was the PDP candidate that eventually won in Adamawa State. Apologies for that mix-up there. But it takes us into the states and how the things look now when you look at it in terms of the state conversations. We also have Alex Oti, who won for the Labour Party, the only state that party has, the party that has now come onto the national stage and is calling itself the First Force. And then, of course, we had the PDP emerge winner of the governorship election in Enugu State as well. So looking at the makeup of things, because it's also a bit reflective of some of the differences we're going to see with the 10th National Assembly, it's an interesting and diverse makeup we're seeing right now when it comes to the state elections. What do we think of all of it? APC won 15 states, PDP 9, LP 1. The New Nigeria People's Party also won in Kano State. There are 7 APC governors re-elected. And then, of course, the ruling party also got 8 new wins as well. 2 PDP governors were re-elected, and there are 7 first-term governors for the PDP as well. So there's been some interesting shakeups. Not everybody who thought they would win won, and not everybody who thought they'd go from governor to National Assembly also went to the National Assembly. Dr. Deji, let's take a look at the states. What do you think?
Well, what I think as regards the state is been an interesting election that a lot would have happened if all the elections were held in one day. For example, if the presidential election was held alongside the governorship election, Sanwo-Olu will be the governor today. Probably it should be the Labour Party candidate, this Roseville. So the governorship election put up a lot of dynamics. We have Alex Oti of the Labour Party in a state that is traditionally a PDP state. That is interesting. That shows the strength of democracy that, okay, if people are determined to go all out, they can actually effect a power change. Before this general election, we have that in Osun as regards Adeleke and Oyetola. So this kind of dynamics that comes to play is, are interesting ones for our democracy. But what I want to see is a national development coalition whereby governors would come together and set a development agenda about how to drive their state forward and look at interstate collaboration. What is your strength? What is my weakness? Can you help me with your strengths? You know, if we can get this, I believe Nigeria will be better off. And if we can have a national development coalition, at least we should at least have like an inter-party, development debate and coalition whereby governors under the PDP would come together, strive for the development, state development target, and governors under the APC would also come together and set their own development target. And that on the long run should begin to set the tone for who wins the election. It should not be about how many talks you have. It should not be about how many money you have, but how well governors of your state as performed in terms of sum of the whole. You know, how did they perform? So if that at the end of the day becomes to be a criteria for winning elections, I believe Nigeria would be better for it.
All right. It is 12 p.m. West African time here in Lagos, Nigeria, a day where we're seeing presidential and state-level governorship swearing-ins across the country. Not in all of Nigeria's 36 states, but definitely in the majority. Now, we've heard from Dr. Abiodun, who has now been sworn in again as governor of Ogun State, and Babajide Sanwo-Olu has also been sworn in again, and he is speaking to addressing Lagosians and, of course, those who are in the audience. This is where we will be signing out because you'll be handed over to Dr. Adeboyega and Rita Modia, who will take you into the afternoon and, of course, possibly now President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's speech. So very big thank you to Segun Sopitan, public affairs analyst, and Dr. Moshola Deji, political scientist, for joining us. But I know that one of them will be staying for the rest of the next segment.
Absolutely. And, of course, we, of course, wish Nigeria well. We, of course, at News Central TV, we will continue to bring you live feed from the inaugurations at the federal and at state level. But thank you very much for staying with us. I've been here since 7 a.m. Thanks for having these conversations with us. Now let's join the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, of course, as he addresses Lagosians. And please do stay with us.
And yet, very importantly, I must add that the last 4 years have not exclusively been about surmounting unforeseen challenges. There is so much more to our story than simply reacting to circumstances that line our path. We have also been busy taking action instead of merely reacting. We have been writing a compelling story of deliberate progress, of action and ambition, fruitful policies, of committed governance, and of a result journey towards the unshakable idea of a truly greater Lagos. 4 years ago, I remember assuring you, the good people of Lagos, that it is possible. Indeed, it is possible. It is always possible. There's so much more for us than the challenges we face and surmount. There is more to us than a single story and pulling through disaster. There is a world-conquering private and public infrastructure rising around the land, like the largest single-train petrochemical refinery in the world, or the largest United States consulate complex in the world, or the largest children's hospital in West Africa, or the largest rice mill in sub-Saharan Africa. There is a constant outpouring of great artist talent from amongst us in music, visual art, theater, film, comedy, food, and many more. There is also the energy and the potential that has made us the startup capital of Africa. We have attracted global corporations like Microsoft, Google, Kimberly-Clark, Cassie, Equinox, Hyundai, Geely, and many more, who have collectively invested hundreds of millions of factories in our state. It must be said that none of this is happening as a fluke. Nothing has happened by accident. Everything has been a product of long planning, painstaking implementation, and the right economic terrain from 1999, when we kick-started the current democratic journey. As I noted on this day 4 years ago, since 1999, our tradition of progressive governance has set Lagos apart and strengthened people's belief in our ideology. That tradition of progressive governance, of enlightened leadership, has consistently yielded fruit for us and set us up as a model for other states across the country. It has delivered the dividends of democracy to you, our people, and has given us the opportunity to export our public sector innovation to the rest of the country. Even in the days when we were as a state in opposition to the federal government, we were hounded on every side by those who sought to embarrass us and undermine us. We never strayed from the progressive path. We did not seek to be like our opponents in order to make them take it easy on us. We held fast and firm, and history has always vindicated us again and again. We are lined up to a destination as Nigeria's center of excellence, and a day like this is an opportunity for us to celebrate that fact. But one thing we must never do is to commit the error of complacency. While we have made so much progress, there's also a long way ahead of us. You, the good people of Lagos State, still expect a lot more from us in several areas. And today is another opportunity to acknowledge your expectations and to rededicate ourselves to meeting and surpassing those expectations. We will work relentlessly to make Lagos the state where economic opportunities are abound, where our infrastructure is robust and resilient, and where the rule of law prevails. But our vision for Lagos goes beyond our physical infrastructure and our economic indicators. Our vision for Lagos is for a Lagos that is a beacon of cultural vibrancy, intellectual power, and humanistic values. A Lagos that not only drives the economic engine of Nigeria, but also enriches the soul of our nation. As we embark on this journey, we remember the timeless words of Mahatma Gandhi that the best way to find yourself is to use yourself to the service of others. I pledge, as your governor, to lose myself in the service of Lagos State, to work tirelessly for the well-being of every Lagosian, and to strive for Lagos that we all can be proud of. It is in line with this resolve that I'm pleased to announce that we're taking our team's governing agenda to the next level, our second term. The team's agenda, you also know what they all stand for: transportation and traffic management, health and environment, education and technology, making Lagos a 21st century mega city, entertainment and tourism, security and governance. Henceforth, it will be known as Teams Plus. The plus representing the incorporation of an intensified focus in these next 4 years on social inclusion, gender equality, and youth development. In other words, we are strengthening and reinforcing our teams with a no one left behind philosophy. No one will be left behind on account of their social status. No one will be left behind on account of their gender or age. We will design all of our programs and policy to ensure that everyone is carried along and is catered for. This is our solemn promise to you, Lagosians. At this junction, fellow Lagosians, I would like to acknowledge and thank our former president, the outgone president of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, who until today, May 2029, was our president. His unalloyed love, kindness, and support for Lagos has contributed greatly to the many successes we have recorded. When the story of the transformational period of the history of Lagos is told, former President Buhari will occupy a very important part of it. Fellow Lagosians, today also is a day to remember, because it came before us and laid a solid foundation that we're able and proud to be proud of today. First and foremost is Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, who began the Fourth Republic journey, who dreamed big dreams. The man who envisioned several groundbreaking visionary projects in Lagos, including the likes of Eko and Atlantic City, the Lekki Free Trade Zone, which has birthed today several ports, including the biggest refinery and the deepest deep sea port, amongst others. I must note that far away, almost 700 kilometers from here, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, our father, our leader of our party, the All Progressive, has since taken the oath as the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And so on behalf of all of you Lagosians that are in this place, I want to say a big congratulations to the leader of our time, our brand new president, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR. I salute you. Lagos salutes you. A big part of the track record that has propelled him to the highest level on the land was assembled here in Lagos. We're extremely proud of him and of what he has achieved here and what he has set to achieve at the federal government using the developmental templates of what we are fine-tuned here in Lagos. Gratitude also to Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, a Commander of the Order of the Niger, who took a oath of battle from Asiwaju and ran a fantastic race as the Governor of Lagos. Mr. Fashola has just retired as a two-time Minister of Works and Housing, and he has also represented us well. He has shown great credence and excellence as he served and as he abode out as a Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Lagos is also proud of you, and we're proud of the service that you have rendered. We also have my predecessor, Mr. Akiu Miambodi, from whom I took over and who had made important strides that has made our work here easier in many aspects. We say thank you to you, and God continue to bless you. I also remember with great fondness and respect our democratic precursors from the early republics, the late Alhaji Lateef Jakonde and the late Sir Michael Otedola, as well as all the administrators and governors who ruled the state in military uniform, such as the late Brigadier General Mobolaji Johnson and the late Rear Admiral Undubusi Kanu. Their contribution to the development of Lagos State will never be forgotten. At this moment of the history of our state, it has fallen upon me to steer the ship and to move us closer than ever before to a greater Lagos of our dream. I made an important promise 4 years ago that I'm compelled to remind you of. I said, and I quote, "The Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu you see today shall not change or try to become something I am not. Every day I have served you as your governor over the last 4 years. I have counted my time in days, in hours, and in minutes, and consistently and habitually done my very best to live up to my personal vow that I will not try to become something that I am not. I have strived to serve you Lagosians excellently without being addressed as His Excellency. I have served you with humility, with compassion, with a listening ear, bending over backwards when necessary to demonstrate to you, the people of Lagos, that leadership is first and foremost a servanthood. I have done my best at every junction to remind you, Lagosians, that this land belongs to all of us, and all of us who call it home must partake of its goodness. Regardless of what language we speak, or where we trace our ancestral to, or where in Lagos we live, or what religion we profess, regardless of our age or gender or political party, regardless of how long we have called this land home, we are all united by something deep